So here we go, episode 7 of the Ox Files. I'm delighted to have an absolute legend, one of the nicest men I've ever met in football, Ryan Clarke, with us today. How are you, Ryan?
I'm very well, thank you, Chris. Thanks for the plug with the nice. I'll take that.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Yeah, another beer you owe me. We're going to look back at the 2009-10 season in the company of Dan Curtis, who put this all together. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, really good, thank you, Chris. Welcome, Ryan. Cheers, everyone.
How you doing, Dan? All right?
Yeah, you're drinking this week. This will be good.
I am drinking this week.
I should point out it's 8:30 in the morning when we're recording this. So I don't want people to worry as the lighting makes me look this red. I'm not having some sort of episode, and we're delighted to have as our fourth panelist today. The beard's spectacular. It's going very well, isn't it?
It's coming along, certainly, yeah.
Anyway, right. So, Martin, set the scene for us, and then you can set Ryan off.
It's just to set the scene for this season. The previous season, United finished in 7th place in the conference, just 4 points off the playoffs, but they had 5 points deducted for fielding an ineligible player in Eddie Hutchinson. Played in 5 games, so they deducted us 5 points, which meant we missed out on the playoffs, obviously. If we'd have finished in the final place in the playoffs, and we'd have played Cambridge United in the semi-finals. So there you go.
Where's the fun in that? We wanted a year at it. And then
during the close season, we brought in a few kind of players who proved to be quite key the following season. There was Jake Wright, Mark Crichton. Some of these might join later in the season. Chris Hargreaves, Jack Midson, and some chap in goal. I can't remember who it was.
So, Dan, you might as well tell your fantastic I was behind Clarkey when he was about to sign story.
Well, I was filming behind the goal of the last day of the previous season with my camera, and I kept thinking, God, he's a great goalkeeper, that guy. Because you were quite busy that day, I think, Ryan. We were having lots of shots at you. And I just thought, what a great goalkeeper. And then it seemed to me almost immediately after the game, it was announced that you'd signed for us. Is that right? Am I remembering it right?
Yeah, pretty much. I think prior to the game on the last day of the season, I'd already, my old goalkeeper coach, actually, who was friends with Chris Wilder at the time, had mentioned it to me that my name had been put forward to him on his head be it by my old goalkeeper coach. They were in talks at the time for various reasons, and so I had an inkling that there may be a chance of something happening in that summer. And obviously we had the game on the last day of the season, which was like the Alamo, basically, because we were getting absolutely peppered for the whole game, pretty much. And fortunately the game went well, and I think it sort of sealed the deal, really, that I think Chris had heard a few things about me, and then not to obviously get the chance to play against one of his teams at the end of the season and do so well was sort of the final nail in the coffin to get something sorted, which I was absolutely delighted about, because it was a huge club for me compared to a few of the clubs previously that I was at, trying to work my way back into getting into the Footballer League, and it paid off.
My memory is hopeless on these things. That game, was that the one when Oxford fans kept running past you? Didn't one run the length of the pitch and go over the fence, or is that just my memory?
I think if I remember rightly, I think our captain on the day had a corner flag wrapped around his head. I can remember Billy Turley rugby tackling someone at the top end. It was all going off. It was when they scored the first. It was when Oxford scored the equaliser. Obviously, they needed to win to have any chance of getting in the playoffs, and Stevenage needed to lose or something. It was just pandemonium when the equaliser went in, and then I think almost straight from kickoff we went up the other end and scored. So it was a surreal game, but I remember the atmosphere on the day, and I was just thinking, well, if I get the chance to play for this club, it'll be something special. And thankfully I did, and it did turn out to be very special as well.
I've asked you this at the time as well, Ryan. We had Elvis already in the building. We had Billy in.
Yeah, you did.
What was said to you? Because I remember the pre-season, before we get onto the season, it wasn't guaranteed you were first choice or he was.
No, not at all. I mean, for me, I just seen it as a chance of coming to a huge club at that level. And in all honesty, knowing that Billy was there and he was, you know, a big character at the time, he was a well-respected goalkeeper at that level. I knew I had my work cut out, and I genuinely thought I was going there to be a number 2. But I remember speaking to Chris, and he said, listen, if you do well in pre-season, you'll get the nod on the first game of the season. And fair play to Chris, he stuck to his word. I mean, pre-season went really well. I had a bit of luck as well. Billy, I think, was off with a bit of illness, missed a few pre-season games. So I just took it as a chance to, you know, grab it with both hands. And thankfully, pre-season went really well. And I got the nod on the first game of the season. And from then on, it was just every game was like a cup final for me, because to drop back down to the level that I did from being in the Football League previously, and to get back to being at a club of that magnitude was, you know, it was huge for me, and the hard work had paid off. But then on the flip side, the hard work had only just begun again, because it was a huge season with a lot of pressure on us to get promoted. And, you know, I felt a lot of that pressure going into every game, and I think it helped with my performances.
What was Billy like as the number 2 then? Did he take it well?
He was absolutely brilliant. I think the first game of the season, when the teams were announced on the Friday, I think he was obviously disappointed, and naturally he's going to be disappointed. He was number 1 there for a long time, you know, for a while, and you know, he probably thought that no matter how pre-season went, he was gonna get the nod. So it's only natural for him to be disappointed at the time. But to be honest, he took it really well, and he was absolutely fantastic with me through the whole season. Not just me, the whole team. And he was. I've said it many a time before. He was a brilliant character to have around day to day, and he was. I know he didn't play a huge part in the games, but he certainly did off the pitch and being in and around the lads, and he had a massive impact that season, as well as not getting the chance to play as much.
Danny mentioned the first game. What have you got video-wise for us, Mr. Curtis?
There is quite a lot of footage from this season. It's not like really extensive footage, but there's most of the key matches. We started off at home to York. Ryan, talk us through what happened that day.
I remember making a save early on, very early on. And that sort of steadied my nerves a little bit, because it was a huge game. And then obviously, yeah, they scored, went 1-0 up, and then we got the equaliser, and then obviously the last minute, it was just crazy. It was, yeah, the last minute, I think it was Christ, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, it just set the tone for our season, really. We didn't give up. We kept going. We went 1-0 down. And yeah, it was a massive game. And if we'd have lost the first game at home, you know, the pressure would have been well and truly on. But we kept going till the end. I just remember, you know, jumping and going mad at the end when Kreitz scored. And yeah, he was a massive player for us that season. So it was a good start to a hectic campaign with lots of games, and they were coming thick and fast.
When you start a season with a win like that, it really was like 2 goals in the last couple of minutes. Does that give you a massive springboard then for the rest of the season, do you think?
I think, well, we know we didn't play well on the day, and we dodged a bit of a bullet, really. So the fact that we didn't play well and still won was good. But at the same time, we knew that we couldn't afford to, especially in the home games, we couldn't afford to not play well and not get results and rely on, you know, being the big club and not playing well, but still getting results. So thankfully, we were playing well and getting results. But yeah, nevertheless, it was a good start against obviously the boys that we were going to play in the final. So mentally, whether that had anything to do with it in the final, I don't know. But either way, it was a good start, and it was nice for me. It was my first competitive game for the club, and just to get the win felt good in front of so many fans as well that I'd not been used to for a little while again.
We remember Mark Crichton's winner then against York in the last minute, last kick of the game pretty much. But which former Oxford player does he now share his tattoo parlour with?
This is a very unfair question since three of us spoke to the other fella
Yeah.
on a podcast 2 weeks ago and Ryan's never met him.
Yeah, it's not just for you guys though, it's for the listening and watching audience worldwide. So see how many of them have paid attention to previous podcasts, really.
Well, I wouldn't think many at all. All right, I'm going to write. Am I going to write that down? Okay.
Ryan, would you go to Mark Crichton's for a tattoo?
For a tattoo?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a bit old for tattoos now. I've got a couple, but they're horrendous. So if he can laser them off, maybe. But that's what happens when you're a Magaluf drunk as a 17-year-old, I suppose. It seemed good at the time.
The games really did come thick and fast at the start of the season. I guess in the conference, they try and squeeze as many in the warm months as possible. Is this second game or third game, Martin? We're away at Histon.
That's a good question. I can try and find out for you.
While Martin's finding that out, I'll explain to people at home. There's two ways of watching this. There's not. There's one way of watching it, which is on the YouTube channel, and then there's a podcast. Those on the podcast, we are watching videos as we go through this. We were watching us beat York. Now we're watching us win away at Histon. I have a theory that signing players like Ryan and Jack Midson used to play for Histon. You need players who played at this level and know this league, don't you? And I think traveling to places like Histon in the first 2 or 3 years when we dropped into the conference, it was alien to people like Phil Gilchrist and people who played, all their careers up at that level. Clarke, is that correct? Do you need to know this level?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think at the time, the league was a lot more hustle and bustle, physical. And yeah, I think if you get players that come down from the leagues above, they don't expect that. But I think the ones that are in and around this level, they fully know what to expect. And obviously the grounds as well. You've really got to go to some not being disrespectful, but you've got to go to some horrible grounds on cold Tuesday nights and stuff. And you've got to really be able to have that mentality of rolling your sleeves up and thinking that if you want to get out of this league, the home games for us were always going to take care of themselves. We were always, going to fancy ourselves at home against anyone, but it was the going away on a Tuesday nights and on the cold nights and rolling your sleeves up and getting the results at those sort of places. Histon was all right. The sun was out there. I was getting quite a good tan. But getting the results at those sort of places was what got you out of that league at the time.
I'll also say, working at the club at the time, I think it's the second, maybe third time I've been to Histon, and they'd definitely beaten us at Histon, because I was mocked for wearing an Oxford United polo shirt or something, because we were the scout. All the clubs wanted to beat us, maybe when Luton dropped down the Zen 2, but we were the club that everybody wanted to beat.
Yeah, well, home and away. I mean, with the backing that we took, I used to love the away games probably a little bit more than the home games, because the home games there was that added pressure, but with the away games and seeing how many fans we had there and outnumbering, the home fans every week was just brilliant. And it was the same week in, week out. I mean, and it continues even now. So. But yeah, the away games, there were some great away days, and it used to always be after an away win, it was always a fun bus on the way home, wasn't it? It was beers on, stop in a pub, have a couple of beers. I don't know if it's like that nowadays, but that was why we did so well. We had a great team spirit. Chris loved the boys to have a beer after a win, and it just built team spirit for us. And again, that was a massive thing for us that year that it helped us get promoted.
What was Chris Wilder like? Obviously, we see him on TV now, and he's, he comes across as quite a dour Yorkshireman. What's he actually like in real life, away from the camera?
Oh, no pressure now. No, he's a man's man. Listen, any manager is gonna, take the highs and have lows, but he's a man's man. He's brutally honest. He's if you're not doing it for him, he's got no harm in getting you out and putting someone else in. which is why I knew I had to be on every game personally, because I knew Billy was still there. But again, yeah, he would do his research. The main thing for us was how much research he did on the opposition that we played. We would always go through their team on a Friday, strengths, weaknesses, knew where to exploit them, knew where they were dangerous. So that was all good. But his man management was also good in terms of which players he needed to give a rocket up the backside and which players he needed to leave alone, which players he needed to put an arm around. He always got that right. And yeah, it is the way he wanted us to go about playing our games was always, front foot football, attack. It sort of, if they score one, we'll score two. If we, but yeah, he was brilliant. Team spirit was a massive thing for him. Loved the boys to have a good camaraderie between us. And yeah, I can't speak highly enough of him. And that is, it's no surprise that he's gone on and done so well. And I'm sure he'll be at that level for quite a while after what he's done at Sheffield United.
You said he's a bit down. He's not. He's funny as well. He does put his arm around you and look after you. And if you're his friend, I'm his friend for life now. I'm always going to get on well with Chris. And I'm sure we had the reunion last year, didn't we? It was almost exactly a year ago. He's unbelievable. He's naturally a leader of people.
Yeah,
he can be hard. He can be hard. I've had stand-up rows with him, but he's got that evil little glint in his eye where he's going to make some joke or do something stupid. But I think he's a really good guy, Chris.
He is, and I think at the time when things weren't going right, obviously the fans were there was a couple of seasons down the line where if we were going on a bad run. But the one thing with Chris is, if we ever went on a bad run, he knew exactly how to get us out of it. He knew what sort of performance we needed to put in. I always remember a famous quote. One of his quotes was always, "You lose one, you lose two, you never lose three on the trot." And that third game, I can't ever remember a game where we did lose three on the trot. But he was old school, but in a modern sort of way, and the players totally bought into how he wants to do things. And if there was the odd one that didn't, then straight away that they would be out the door. And that was just the way he worked, and it proved that it worked.
I don't want to bring this down either, but when he did go very strong with the players, he had the perfect man there in Mickey, because when we did the podcast last time, I knew Mickey was very ill, so I was feeling it a little bit. Now he's passed on. An unbelievably brilliant assistant manager, Mickey Lewis, because he knew when Chris had gone too far, the player needed a lift, or he knew when to back up the manager. A brilliant bloke.
Yeah, and I think Chris realised that. I think Chris realised how good Mickey was for him, because if Mickey was almost a bit of a calming influence on him, really. And I don't think many people realise how much of an impact, well, they do know how much of an impact he had, but in terms of how much of an impact he had on Chris, because Chris could be a bit of a firecracker at times, and rightly so. But at the same time, you had Mickey, that was always that go-to guy between the manager and the boys. And Mickey would always drop things in to let us know what he was expecting, and we knew where we stood. And I'm sure Chris will say that Mickey was a huge part in why he did so well as well.
Move on quick before I cry.
Well, this isn't going to help then. This is one of Martin's questions, I'm afraid.
Yeah, United won at Histon that time, 4-3. What's Oxford's overall record against Histon? And by the way, going back to the early point, that Histon game was the third game of the season. We had an away game at Kettering in between York and Histon.
We did. Kev Sandwich scored the equaliser.
Yeah. Have you just Googled that, Martin, or does your brain just take like 15 minutes to click round to the answer?
My brain takes a lot longer than that to do anything, mate.
Quick, put a video up, quick.
Yeah, so the game that never was.
Where's Bino? No, hang on. What's he going to do now? That doesn't count.
So for those listening, we're watching the 4-0 win against Chester. Brilliant goal there from Matt Green. I've got.
Okay, it was written off by VAR.
Take that off record books.
I must admit, I've got a real man crush on Matt Green. I just think he was a brilliant player. Ryan, tell me how good he was, because I just thought he was the best.
Yeah, he was just so dangerous with his pace. His finishing was actually a lot better than people give him credit for. He was a really good finisher. But yeah, he would put himself about. He would, bash people around. He would get his body in, and once he opened his legs, you weren't catching him. You weren't catching him, and he was massive for us that season. Everyone was massive for us this season, but he scored he scored in the semi-finals as well, didn't he? But he scored lots of goals that season, yeah, and he was good. I was actually given, this was my last chance saloon in this game, actually. Chris actually come up to me after this game and said, right, don't open the door for anyone, in terms of don't let Billy in, because even though we had a good start, I was a little bit not reaching how I should be playing. I was just getting through the games a little bit, and I think he's seen that. And he gave me a little bit of a heads up, as if to say, right, you need to start pulling it out of the bag now. And I think we played Stevenage after this game, and I had a really good game against Stevenage, and that's when it started to all sort of fall into place for me personally, really. But yeah, that game that never was.
The big thing from this game, obviously, was James Constable's hat-trick. How lively were those two up together, Matt Green and James Constable? Tell us about their relationship as a duo.
They just played totally off the cuff, I think. I think they were both forward-thinking. They both had... they were never going to score a goal that was a side foot curled in. It was always going to be get in the box, get it to them. They're going to take a touch and smash it, basically. But they would get into positions. And it would just be a matter of getting the ball to Bino. But Greeny could create a lot of goals for himself, or create a lot of chances for himself with his pace. But both very powerful, strong, and for that level, were really good goal scorers, and they were massive for us that year. But also even Jack, everyone was chipping in with goals that year. So, but yeah, once we knew we had those boys up front, we were always going to score goals.
And Matt Green and James Constable played together at Cirencester as kids, so they knew each other's game. They played since they were about 14, 15 together. I'm going to tell a story that people won't know. When James first came, Jamie Guy was the big goal-scoring hero in pre-season and whatever, and James was playing second fiddle. And he went through a little while at the start of his first season where he wasn't scoring goals. And it was Kelvin Thomas, the chairman at the time, who took Chris Wilder to one side and said, you've got to leave him on. You keep subbing him after 70 minutes. He's tired out the defenders. You watch how many goals he scores late on. If Martin ever did some research and went back through instead of just growing his beard, his early goals for us are all late in the game. And it was Kelvin's suggestion, keep him on, don't sub him off to put somebody on.
Yeah.
Score goals. And that's what turned it around for him. He scored goals late in games.
Yeah, he was good. He was all right. He scored a few goals for us, didn't he? Just a few.
Oh God, there's another question. What's that?
Well, quite straightforward, really. What was the significance to the history of Oxford United Football Club with the Chester result being expunged?
Do you mean apart from the one that we've just said 4 times?
Yeah, apart from that one, obviously.
Oh. Honestly, I think University Challenge is on over in the other room. I might go and watch that.
Anyway, moving on. Moving on.
Yeah, so Ryan mentioned Stevenage. People on the podcast are now watching us win 2-1 against Stevenage. They were the rivals, weren't they, Stevenage? They would every season you get them. The season before, I think it had been Dagenham, or somewhere on the line it was Dagenham. Stevenage definitely the rivals, weren't they, Ryan?
They were, and probably. I mean, it was always going to be sort of the likes of us, Luton, York. I never really had Stevenage down as sort of being up there challenging as much, but they certainly were. And yeah, they were another physical team. I just look back at how physical the teams were. at the time in this league, and Stevenage were definitely one of the stronger teams. And so this was a massive result for us because obviously we'd had a good start, but now we were coming up against a very physical team that we knew were going to be up there. So it was a big result for us, and they sort of took advantage of our little blip that we had, and yeah, they pipped us to it, didn't they?
The first goal there, was that Adam Murray scoring that first goal?
Yeah, it was Musk scored the first goal. Yeah,
He's doing all right at Barnsley, and he's doing okay, that boy.
Flying. He was a crazy kid.
Great kid. You don't tell the stories. I can't tell the stories. You don't drop Adam in it. He's got.
There was lots
this entire hour with talks.
Hey, there was lots of crazy kids in that team.
Yes.
So give us one story that you can tell us. Go on.
Cool.
Oh no.
Well, once I think it was after we got promoted. One after we got promoted, we came back from a night out. We went back. A few of the boys used to stay in a house in Kidlington. I'd come back. I think I was the last one of the first one back, thinking I was the first one back. And I'm walking through the garden, and I can hear these two voices talking in the garden. I'm thinking, where are these voices coming from? And this is like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm stood in the middle of the garden thinking, what's going on? Anyway, I look up, and you've got Alfie Potter and Sam Deering sat in a tree that is about 40 foot in the air right at the top, having a beer and having a full-on conversation. And I'm just, what am I seeing? So that was the kind of thing that we were dealing with. So 4 o'clock in the morning, sat in a tree having a drink. So that sort of thing. So yeah.
Adam Murray, the Eastbourne game the season before, been really windy, and when he walked onto the pitch, he said, "I'm going to score from a corner here, Chris." I said, "No, you're not." And he took the first one, and the wind took it push over the bar, and the second one he put in the top corner. He was unbelievable as a footballer. But
technically, he's one of the best players I've played with. I know he's had one of those careers, and he was. But yeah, I think Chris always said to him that he was going to pull him in and out of the team if and when he, sort of for the right games, and there's going to be games that he may not be needed. And Muzz took that really well, but I was gutted for him that he missed the final because he was injured, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah, I was gutted for him that he missed the final, but he was a great lad, and he was a massive part for us that season as well.
Yeah.
Should we move on? The big one. So, Chris and Martin, tell us what happened in the build-up to this, because we'd signed a player, hadn't we?
I can tell you a brilliant story about that, but let Martin go first.
Well, the sensible bit of the background is that the 12th Man Fund paid, I think there's £5,000 for us to sign Jamie Cook. Was he at Crawley at that time? I can't remember, but yeah.
Yes.
And this game was his debut. So yeah, it was.
Can I chip in a story that again people won't know unless I've said it on a podcast before? We've been pestered by the chairman or a scout down at Poole Town saying, "We've got a striker, you can have him, but a lot of football league clubs are looking at him." And they said, "How much do you want?" They said, "We quite like him." They said, £5,000. I said, "No, we're going to get Jamie Cook back from Crawley, Charlie Austin."
Wow.
That's a true story. It was Mickey Lewis who said, "No, we're going with Jamie Cook." So,
well, the good news is Jamie Cook got a couple of goals at least.
Much better golfer. I'll do Cookie down because Cookie's great. Cookie's one of the good guys.
He had so much ability, that boy, but
yeah.
So did James Constable.
We scored just after this, didn't we? Straight after.
We did.
30 seconds it took from that save to the goal.
Yeah,
okay. And Matt Green.
This was some goal from Jamie Cook.
Miles better than Charlie Austin. I don't know what happened to that. I don't know.
Ryan, what was the atmosphere like in the changing room after this game then?
Well, I was just about to say, I think because of how brilliant the atmosphere was in the game, it was like a derby game, really. It was the two big boys of the league going at it, wasn't it? And I think if you finished above Luton in the league, you'd know you would be promoted. That was, it was a massive game for us, and I think we won it quite comfortably in the end. But I just remember the atmosphere. But one thing was, we never got too carried away. Really, Chris would always, that was one thing that he did do. We never got too carried away. We'd enjoy the moment. Obviously, we'd have a beer after the game especially on the away games. But come back in on Monday and it's back to business. That was it until we'd got to where we need to be. But so yeah, that was a massive game for us, and I just remember the atmosphere being brilliant. I think it was kicking off in the crowd a bit. The Luton fans were trying to get over to the Oxford fans. So yeah, it was my first taste of sort of that sort of atmosphere at the Kazam, and it was brilliant result.
We try and fill, Ryan, we try and fill the podcast with other bits of video that people might not have seen. This is from YouTube. This is a Luton fan filmed this, and it's called something like From Glory to Despair in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You can see the reaction of the Luton fans as Constable's penalty is saved.
Yeah.
And then literally like 10, 15 seconds later, the ball's in the back of the net again. So
yeah, it was a great goal. I remember Greeny charging down the wing, wasn't it? It was a great finish. There we go.
And the
My
silence.
my daughter's dating a Luton fan. Can you send me that clip down afterwards?
Of course I can. Yeah, all there for you. Go on then, Martin. Here's your questions.
Yeah, how many times did Matt Green roll after being fouled by Kevin Nichols? I guess at the nearest 10.
Oh God, I'm going 8.
I reckon 6.
Well, I reckon it was in the 20s, but that's not sort of the serious question is this one. So how was this game used in an attempt to help England's bid for the 2018 World Cup finals?
What?
Where are you getting these questions from, Martin?
What happens when I've got nothing else to do in lockdown?
Who's going to know this?
Well, I do.
Well, I know you do.
It only connects on the telly next time. I might go and watch that now.
Yeah. Don't look so worried, Clarky. There's no prize involved.
Good. I'm on 0.
I've got a terrible confession. I went to very few games around this time because my daughter was just about to be born. So I didn't go to many games. So someone tell me what happened here at Crawley. Talk us through it.
Did we go 1-0 down in Crawley?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember we were 1-0 down at half time.
Yeah.
Which meant that Stevenage were top of the league because they were winning. And then at full time, we'd beaten Crawley and Stevenage had lost. So we maintained our lead at the top.
Yeah, that was Chappie, wasn't it? And Bino scored with a couple of minutes to go, I think.
That's it.
That's right.
But you
Where have
also
you got your memory from, Clark? Have you been reading up on this?
I remember every single thing from this season. How can you forget it?
There you go.
he missed a penalty as well, did Bino? He missed quite a few penalties this season, actually, I think.
Yeah.
Missed a penalty and then scored literally like seconds later again. So.
I don't think we had many against that season, penalties. I don't
That went in? No,
Yeah.
of course not. No. Why was that? Did the goalkeeper save them?
I don't know. Jack Stevens took over that, man. I wasn't very good in goal. I was all right at penalties, though.
So we're flying. What I can't find is any league tables from around this time, but we were flying. We were doing really, really well. I guess there was a few other teams kind of emerging from the pack. So Stevenage found a bit of form around this time, but I was pretty convinced we were going straight up, no bother. It was around this time, Ryan, that I'm allowed to say this. The other two probably aren't as official employees of the club. I think Chris Wilder started tinkering with the squad around now. Like he started bringing in players like, I'm going to say Franny Green, Onome Sule. Did that disrupt the squad a bit at all, do you think?
I can't remember at the time. I think as players, we just seen it as we're making the squad stronger. He's making the squad stronger to really go for it. But I think for whatever reason, I think we lost to Tamworth, Hayes and Yedding twice. we had some really funny results. But I think,
Oh,
oh
hello.
yeah, that was my. I think that that was. Oh God, I don't remember that one.
As well.
Hey,
I don't remember that one.
Billy, your time has come.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, I think we were dominating games, but we weren't taking our chances like normal. And I think other teams were getting the odd chance, or we were just having our little blip, and it was costing us. So Stevenage took advantage of it, didn't they? But no, I don't. No one's. I don't think the team was tinkered too much. I think we always had that same foundation. But he did bring one or two in. I think that was more that was more of a positive for us, just to know that with the team, the squad's getting stronger to really go for it.
So we lost at home to Tamworth. Jumping on a little bit in the season, big match, the big return match at Luton, absolute hammer blow, as I recall.
Yeah, they scored 2 in the last few minutes, didn't they?
Yeah.
We went. I think Greeny scored for us to go 1 up. Yeah.
Got a
And then
question
they
for Chris
scored.
about this one, actually. How many rewrites did you have to do for your match report on this one, Chris?
This is an absolute nightmare. I remember this right in the last minute.
Yeah.
So
And
you
then
got some corners, wasn't it?
went
So I've
straight
written
in
the
from a
match
corner.
report, well, we've won the game. Then, we're drawing the game. And then look at this.
Yeah, I should have done better with that one, to be fair.
You
I
don't.
got under it. Not a bad end to do it in front of them lot, is it? Yeah, that was a sickener, because we'd have. I think even at 1-0 up, we'd have took a point.
Yeah.
But to go on and lose it was absolutely gut wrenching. I think that was the first time that the pressure was starting to kick in a little bit, in terms of, right, are we gonna be top of the pile at the end of the season, or are we just gonna have to go through the playoffs? So because after such a good start, our mentality was we need to win the league. We want to win the league, but then every team has a bit of a wobble, don't they? And it sort of affected us a little bit, and we had our little wobble, and Stevenage sort of took advantage of it, didn't they?
Yeah, I think we were looking over our shoulder at Luton coming up, and everyone
Yeah.
off Stevenage, finishing the strongest.
Yeah,
Good
I have to
season.
say that was I still to this day, that was probably the most hostile atmosphere I've played in. Luke,
Yeah.
for some reason, obviously it's a big game, but that was hostile down that end. That was, wasn't a nice place to go and play. Not at all. That was still to this day. That's even worse than Swindon away. That was hostile.
To be fair, we had their crowd where we wanted them. They were right on Luton's back.
Yeah.
And as soon as that first goal goes in, it was almost inevitable the second was coming, I think. But they had turned on their team. Certainly through that season, they expected to just walk away with it like we did maybe the first season in the conference. They expected they were going to storm away with it. So
Was there any sense of panic in the changing room at all? How was Chris Wilder at this stage?
Yeah, I think it wasn't a calm place. I think it was, we can't let this chance pass us by. I think if you're in the league above League 2, the expectations aren't as high. But after such a good start as well, it was a little bit, we needed a bit of a rocket up the backside, really. I can't remember the ins and outs of it, but I do remember there was a bit of a feeling where we were down in the dumps for a couple of weeks until we got a few results again. But that's only natural. And it was, thankfully it wasn't to matter. I mean, when we made the playoffs, it was, I think if we knew we could dodge Luton in the playoff final, we'd fancy ourselves, because of the magnitude of their club, the same as ours. So the fact that we dodged them in the final was mentally a bit of a boost for us, I think.
I also think you had some real character. I mean, you're obviously a good talker. Jake's a brilliant captain. Adam Murray was the captain. Danny Bullman is a natural leader. Kreitz is a natural leader. there were some
Yeah.
strong characters to talk you through the tough times. Jake especially.
Yeah, definitely. Because to be fair to Chris, he was on us a little bit. He was having a nit in, rightly so. But like you said, we had such a team full of sort of, you would call it men footballers nowadays. If it was a bunch of players that, you know, hadn't had the experience that we had, it would have been quite easy to, I think, go into a bit of a hole. But we certainly had a lot of experience and characters that, no matter how sort of tough the manager was being on us, and rightly so, because of the pressure at the time, we sort of all stuck together in the right way, and and we got ourselves back on another run again. But yeah, we had so many characters, and again, that was one of the main reasons we did so well and why we went up.
There was a couple more points. I hate to bring up games like this, but
oh, this was horrible. This was horrible.
I was at this one. Yeah, I think this is this the day, Martin, that maybe Stevenage went top?
I think Greeny got sent off, didn't he?
Yeah.
It might be done. Couldn't answer that for sure. But
Just
it's
nod,
disappointing,
just
wasn't
nod
it?
and say that I'm right.
Can't do that.
Greeny got sent off, and then Chris went and sat on the bus with him because he got sent off as well. So.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's a
Yeah, that was
depressing film. A depressing film to show. Martin, here's one of your depressing questions.
Yeah, United lost this game 2-1 away at Hayes and Yedding. But what was the score in the reverse fixture, the home game against Hayes and Yedding?
I think Bash scored.
He did.
Scored a header, didn't he? I don't know if it was 1 or 2 though.
I might edit this bit out.
It was a great header.
We do start to find a bit of form towards the end of the season, and for me, this was like the returning of the solid team, the solid Oxford United. We had the front three, Midson, Green, and Beano back in. The defence started looking really settled again. We're winning. I remember Chris Wilder being really, really pleased on the radio after this game. So this is
yeah. Yeah, we did. We picked up right just at the right time, really, going into the playoffs.
Is that Deering?
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah.
God, he was so. I mean, Sam was only sort of 17, 18 then, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were getting results against some of the so-called big teams pretty easily, I think, if I remember rightly, going into the playoffs. So yeah, we did find our mojo again.
Can you describe the difference between the dressing room when things were getting a bit sticky and the dressing room when things are good?
I think for us, I don't think we panicked too much. We were just on a bit of a bad run, and I think that shows because we come out of it and went on another good run. All a bit vague really at the moment, but training wasn't a nice place to be when you're losing, but thankfully for us, it wasn't the case often. But we had that added pressure. It was every week we needed to win. We couldn't afford to have little runs of losing 2 or 3 games here. Especially with only one team being able to go up out of the league, and then obviously the playoffs is a bit of a lottery. So I think it's a bit cruel, really, that over a 40, even to today, I think it's a bit cruel that only one team goes up over a 42, 44 game season. I think it should be like League 2 where 2 or 3 go up. So it's a brutal league in the fact that only one goes up and you can't really afford to make any mistakes. So, and it just goes to show even one dodgy run that we went on cost us our automatic place.
Do you think it helped in a way that Stevenage by this point was so far ahead, we knew that we were going to be in the playoffs? Do you think that was a help at all?
I think, what would they have been ahead at this point? How many points?
10-ish points, I would say.
Was it?
Yeah.
So there you go. I think so. I think it was a matter of, I think we wanted to finish as high as we could in the playoffs. It was almost, I suppose, not a relief that we knew that they were getting promoted, but we could almost prepare for the playoffs mentally. And I think he did that by resting a few players, actually, just before the playoffs.
He told me that he knew his team. He knew we were in the playoffs, and he knew his team for that.
Yeah.
To make sure they weren't injured. He had told me that at some point.
Yeah. I think we went to Eastbourne and he changed 5 or 6.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Christ killed me in this game. I was about to set the record for the most clean sheets, I think. And he gave away a penalty.
I'd have played Reece Day ahead of him every week.
Reece.
Yeah, I'd have played him ahead of Crichton. Much better.
In this game.
Every game I'd have played him.
So that was the end of the season. And that's how the table finished. So we were 13 points off.
No.
Because we lost that last game, Luton snuck into second place, which meant that we played Rushton. And I must admit, I wasn't disappointed by that.
No, I think, I think we would. If we that's how we would have took it. I think because of the stature of the clubs, I think all we wanted to do was just dodge Luton at all costs, really. And once we'd done the job on Rushton and we knew that York had beat Luton, I think it gave us a little bit of a lift mentally as well, knowing that it was York that we were playing instead of Luton.
So we go to Rushton, and anybody who was foolish enough to watch one of these before knows I had a bit of a history with Rushton's press officer, where we'd come to blows basically at a previous game. And then I can still see this game. Can I tell a story about this? So my son was meant to go on a school trip to watch Blood Brothers on this evening. So I wrote to Willie Russell, the writer of Blood Brothers, and explained the situation. And he wrote a letter back saying football's more important and sent us 2 tickets to see Blood Brothers the week after. So he didn't have to go on the school trip. So Willie Russell helped us go to this game.
Wow, fair play.
He's right, though.
Yeah, this should never have been a goal, should it?
No.
No.
Look at that.
Referee's looking right at it as well.
Yeah, that was a bit of a sickener. That he shanked down the top corner as well.
Is that Lee Tomlin?
No, he played in the. I don't know if it was actually. I remember he played in the away leg.
I think he did that because I think he felt chappy in that.
Yeah.
Not that I'm bitter. 11 years on. Not that I remember that foul.
The atmosphere at that game was amazing. I know it was one of the hottest nights as well.
Yeah.
I remember it was absolutely boiling, and it was so humid for some reason, and I just remember it being so hot, and the atmosphere walking out to seeing the Oxford fans on the right as you walked out, that was just that with all the flags in that was just like hairs on your back stuff. That was brilliant.
As indeed was this day.
And then there's that was some wow.
So for those listening, this is the second leg at the Sam Stadium. A really comfortable, joyous 2-0 win. Go on, Ryan, take up the story. You must have great memories of this day.
Yeah, I think was it 0-0 at half time?
Yeah, it was.
It was, wasn't it? And did the away goals count?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just.
Yeah. No, it just. I think once we knew, if we could get to, it's the same as a lot of games, really. If we could get to half time at 0-0, going towards our fans down that end in the Oxford Mail stand, I think we just knew teams would mentally that teams just sit back because the fans would just suck goals in, and I think that was a pure example on that day. and I think we won it comfortably in the end. The boys took the goals really well, and amazing occasion. You enjoy the celebrations after, but then you think, oh shit, we gotta go to Wembley. So we still got a huge game to win. So we were I think Luton played York on the Sunday.
That's right.
So it was a tense sort of Sunday because now that we were through, we were sort of hoping that York would do a job, and they did for us. So
yeah, that was the game when the Luton fans were pelting the York players at the back of the stand with stones and bricks and things.
yeah, they had to run to the back of the stand, didn't they?
Yeah, they didn't take defeat very well, did they?
I told you it was hostile there. That could have been me.
I can't remember how big a gap there was. In my memory, it was quite quick between the semi-final and the final. Or is that just me?
I remember it being months. It just felt like forever and ever and ever.
The Russian
Yeah.
game was on Monday the 3rd, and the final was on Sunday the 16th. So it was actually almost 2 weeks between them.
Was there?
Yeah, that's right. We played them on a bank holiday, I think.
That's right, yeah.
With the cup final, I'm sure on the Saturday.
Yeah.
They do the cup. Of course, with playing in that one.
I think for so many fans, we obviously had the promotion in '96 would be the previous promotion before this. And for so many fans who put up with so much misery for so long, going to Wembley, knowing we weren't playing Luton, it was just such an exciting time. I remember going onto the pitch at the end here and phoning my wife saying, we're going to Wembley, we're going to Wembley. She was like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, I just remember being so excited. I knew at this point we were going to win. I just knew we were going to win at Wembley. I had total and utter belief, mainly thanks to our goalkeeper. I had total belief in us.
Did your belief change on the 45th minute?
We'll get to that in a little bit.
Mine would have.
Okay, here's a question for you. How many appearances did Ryan Clarke make during the 2009-10 season?
Again, somebody's got an advantage here over the other people in the quiz.
Well,
Yeah,
I
but
wasn't
you know, I
going
don't-
to have such a good memory, was I?
I can't remember how many cup games then, Chris. Who did we lose
What I'll
to?
do,
Who
I
did we
will-
lose to in the FA Cup that year then?
Ooh,
There's a question for you.
it is. I'll
You
find out
should
for
do
you.
the quiz.
We
You
beat
come
you
on
over.
every week. Boris, you're off.
We beat Yeovil, didn't we?
We lost
beat
away at
Yeovil.
Barrow in the FA Cup.
We lost.
Did we?
Barrow.
Yeah,
In a replay.
in a replay.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, we
that
were
was-
2-0 up. We were 2-0 up at home to Barrow, weren't we?
That was a long way to go. I remember that.
That was a 1-1 draw.
Tuesday
Maybe
night.
1-0 up.
It's a long
Yeah.
way to Barrow, in
It
fairness.
is a long way to Barrow.
If there are any under 13s doing this quiz, watching this, if you get them all right, you win a free place with Ryan Clarke's goalkeeping courses. Right? Oh, good, he's gone. I've got a free place in his
Yeah,
course.
away.
You win a free place on one of Ryan's goalkeeping courses. Go on, I'll give you a quick chance to plug it, Ryan. When are they? Who can join?
Yeah.
them?
Thanks for doing my flyer, Chris. As you know,
Shush. Yeah, I'm not getting paid for that either, am I?
yeah, I'm not technically gifted when it comes to that sort of thing.
That's Chris.
But no, by all means, if a young one person wins it, they can come and have an hour with me, no problem. But yeah, so as of the 29th, it's something I started last year. I'm doing a bit of work for the Oxford Elite Academy as well, coaching their goalkeepers. I've also started up my own one-to-one just for in the Oxford area. So I'll always remember as a kid, you know, goalkeeper coaching, going to goalkeeper coaching, and how fun it was, and to have someone do it who you can relate to, or who's played for a team that you support. I used to absolutely love it. So yeah, if any of the kids out there or adults, if adults want to come and have a laugh, lose a bit of weight. Yeah, I'm starting up on the 29th. So
I should maybe have timed that better. We should have maybe not plugged the courses before you chuck one in at Wembley on the video.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Should have maybe done that. Oh, watch out.
Subsidiary question. Which two other players made the same number of appearances?
Oh, I would go.
Hold on, save it for the end, Ryan. Save it for the end.
Oh,
Yeah,
right,
well,
okay.
You can shout out when we do the answers. You can have a little shout out.
I reckon. And
We will see.
The big day.
Love
Go on,
this.
so we've heard the story about the coach crashing. Give us one other story about the build up to this day. Give us a story we've never heard before.
Oh gosh.
I've got one from mine while Ryan's thinking. York didn't go in advance. We went on advance, and we went around it on the Friday and stuff, and had a look around. York didn't. They only travelled down on the day, and I think that's a big mistake at this level. I think people, if you're going to play at Wembley, go and have a look around it. I think.
Yeah. I've got another story as well, because my son was mascot for this game, and so I was privileged to be in the changing rooms. Obviously, not the same changing room as the players, but in that area. And when the teams come out, they're lined up together. York on the right, Ox on the left, or the other way around. Ox on the right, York on the left. And Billy Turley was giving Chris Carruthers just absolute pelters as they were waiting to come out on the pitch.
Yeah.
And Chris Carruthers was in his shell like no one's business. He was just like cowering pretty much.
Yeah, that's probably the one thing that not many people know. I think CC did an article, didn't he, just leading up to the game in the papers, and I think Chris put it on the wall in our changing rooms at the changing ground. And I think Billy took it into his own hands in the tunnel. And obviously you've got Martin Foyle at the front of his team about to walk out. You've got the gaffer at the front of our team. And all you hear is Billy chirping up, "What are you on about, CC? What have you been chirping up about?" And all this, and getting into CC, and all their manager and all their players just looked round and thought, who is this crazy lunatic? What is going on here? So, but it's interesting because we had Chris, regarding this game, Chris was brilliant. He took us to Wembley to get used to the surroundings, which was really good, because it's a lot more daunting than people think when you go out onto the pitch. It's a lot more bigger than you think. And he also got in Dave Bassett on the night before the game at the hotel. And he said that, listen, obviously he'd been to Wembley a few times, and he sat us down and he said, look, tomorrow is not about what you've done through the whole season. It's not about how you play. He said, it is purely about getting a result. No, it doesn't matter how you get it. He said, you can win this game in the tunnel. You know, you can get into them in the tunnel. You need to use every tiny bit of an advantage to your benefit, which we did. And I think that sort of sank in with us, having him there, knowing that, you know, he was emphasising that this is an opportunity. You're about to get promoted. Make sure you do not, whatever you do not miss this opportunity. I tried to make the boys miss it for a split second, but yeah, so it paid off. And little things like that Chris did, getting Harry in, Dave, and taking us to the stadium, were all little things that I think helped us on the day.
Should we watch the action?
You don't realise how good these goals are, actually.
This one's unbelievable.
Unbelievable, yeah.
My man, Matt Green.
People only listening, not watching. Matt Green just smashed around the top corner on the turn.
The whole day is a blur.
Great technique on that half volley, isn't it? Just press it down, wax it.
Yeah, it was a great finish, that. It was a bad day for the goalkeepers, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'll defend you a bit. It was wet, wasn't it? People forget it rained. It was slippery.
Hammering down.
Absolutely.
I've got the most pathetic excuse that any goalkeeper would.
What? It was wet.
Yeah. It's a genuine excuse, but people will think whatever.
There's a gentleman on the bench over here, Mr. Hodgkinson, who's not going to allow you to say that on that day. I'm telling you that.
So go on, Ryan. What was the excuse? Go on.
Right. So up until I think 3 games before the final, I'd lost my glove sponsor. I was with Nike, and I was meant to get some gloves from Nike, but they didn't come. So I was struggling for gloves, and I had a couple of pairs sent to me, and I pulled them out the packet, and we played 2 or 3 games before the final, and it was bone dry. So any glove, there you go. So any glove that you wear in the bone dry is actually not too bad. But I pulled these gloves out. I walked out at Wembley, and no word of a lie, it was the biggest raindrops I've ever seen. And it was absolutely hammering it down. And of course, you got brand new balls. And even in the warm-up, my head was all over the place because there's these balls with a plastic coating on them, and these gloves that are just absolutely terrible. I just couldn't. The ball was just, it was just going everywhere. So that was my excuse. It was wet and the gloves were crap.
What were you meant to do there then? Punch it clear or head it?
No, I should have just caught it, but
Yeah,
I
but
was
that would
actually
have been logical.
yeah. I just literally just took my eye off the ball. I just thought in that instance as a goalkeeper, I thought I was going to take a hit, and I think I had it in my head that as soon as I catch it, Greeny was out wide for me to throw it in. But why I was thinking that with only a minute to go anyway, I don't know. So, yeah.
I don't think it mattered in the end, did it?
It made for an exciting second half, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It won a few, I'm sure it won a few people a few quid on both teams to score.
Yeah.
What was it like in the second half then? Obviously, you're thinking, you know, I've let York back into it, and York had a lot of pressure in that second half. Talk us through what you're feeling.
I went in at half time, and it was like, right, I looked in the mirror and I thought, right, you can sink or you can swim now. You're still in the lead. I just thought you can either let it affect you, or you can be the person that helps us win this game. And fortunately, I went the other way. I mean, York had some glorious chances in the second half that they should have scored,
shouldn't they? Rankin and Brodie both should have
yeah.
scored. Yeah.
But I made a couple of saves, and I also come and took a few crosses as well. So it was a sort of sink or swim moment. But it wasn't exactly a time to think, was it? Because there's so much riding on it. And I only just wish that Alfie would have scored a little bit earlier so I could try and relax and enjoy the occasion. But for 95 minutes, I wasn't able to enjoy it at all. It was daunting. It was pressure. It was everything. Even, you know, the size of the stadium. I generally didn't think it would hit me that much, but it did, just all of it. But fortunately, my game came through and had a good second half, because it was crazy conditions for a goalkeeper. Ingy in goal at the other end. He made a few rash decisions as well, and the weather played a bit of a part. And it was just one of those games where the pitch wasn't great. It was pouring down, and just mistakes were going to be made. But fortunately, we got that third goal and we could start to party.
I've heard it described as the single most important game in the club's history.
Yeah, I think that's right. Before we move on from that picture, trivial lovers, did Sir Jeff Hurst, give us the trophy?
I think he must have.
That's him, top right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jeff Hurst gave us the trophy. And then where you paused that a minute ago, there's Bino Adam and Chris Hargreaves handing the trophy over to Adam Chapman, who's the man of the match. And I'm not going to go into the emotions of that, but that is some performance by Chappie with all the circumstances.
Yeah.
He'll happily say that was the greatest moment of his life. And he was brilliant on that day. Yeah,
and the boys knew it for him as well. And he was awesome. And he was another great lad. So much ability, and he was amazing for us on that day. And bearing in mind what was going on, and just he was a credit. And just I think the emotions got the better of him in the end, but it was just an emotional roller coaster for him, and it's only natural. But you know what a way for him to finish the season as well.
He loved Adam Murray. Adam Murray was a brilliant mentor. He was like the Yoda to Adam Chapman's Luke. He was brilliant for him. I wouldn't want Adam Murray to mentor me at anything in life, but he did look after him. He really, really helped Chappie all the way through that season.
Yeah, he was. He was. It was just, again, it was just a team of absolute characters. And Muzz, I think Muzz will be one of the first to say that as a pro, he went through a few things, and he was there on Chappie's side to make sure that he didn't do the same sort of thing, because I think one thing that Muzz did see above anything else is the amount of ability that Chappie had, and he didn't want him to waste it.
It was quite a good night after this as well, wasn't it, as I remember?
I can't remember.
No.
All I know is that I didn't get let in a club because I was too drunk in the middle of London. So I was wandering around London all on my own. The boys were all in having a party, and I was just outside. I had to get a taxi home, couldn't get in.
I walked into work at the Kazam Stadium about 9 o'clock the next morning, and there were 3 of them asleep in the doorway. I had to step over 3 of the players who hadn't been home and only knew how to get to Oxford to go to the stadium. It was quite brilliant.
And then we had the bus parade on the Monday, didn't we? So yeah. I think there was a few of us. I know I was one of them, but I went on a bit of a 4-day bender, I think.
There's a man, I think the manager may have had a drink or two to celebrate. Mickey definitely did.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a drinking competition, don't have it with Andy Melville, Mickey Lewis and Chris Wilder, because
I know
the 4-day session for them is just, holiday.
Yeah, it was. I mean, again, that's why, within moderation, they wanted us to enjoy the wins as well. So they knew it was massive, the team spirit, and Chris has always been big on team spirit, even when I went to Northampton with the pre-season trips, and it was good. You could sit down. I remember having a couple. I remember we went on tour to Scotland, and there was a curfew at 11 o'clock. Brilliant story. This brilliant story. There was a curfew. We had to be in at 11 o'clock. Of course, I came in about, I think 12 o'clock it was, and I walked through reception, and Mickey Lou is sat there with Mel, and I thought, oh my God, I am in so much trouble here. Oh, there was a curfew at 11. It's gone 12 o'clock. I'm only just coming in. Mickey Lou's called me over. He's gone, Clarky, come here. I was like, oh my God, I'm in for it. It's going to get back to the gaffer. The gaffer is going to be fuming. He said, what are you doing? I said, oh, I'm sorry, Mick. He said, no. He said, you better get to that bar now, and you better sit down with us and get around in. I thought. So I ended up staying up with Mickey until about 2 in the morning, having a beer, and never got back to Chris. Brilliant. So Mickey was fine. He just wanted me to get him a beer. And we sat there for a couple of hours and had a beer. Brilliant.
I hate to ruin all those brilliant stories with one of Martin's bloody questions. Go on, Martin.
And how many other games that season did Matt Green, James Constable, and Alfie Potter all score? One's off.
Oh, I'm here. I'm just checking my back there.
So, yeah, that's just that really. Greeny, Beano and Alfie, how many other games apart from the Wembley file did they all score?
You've not been getting out much in lockdown, have you, Martin?
It's been a bit slow, won't kid you.
What happens next? You're in charge of the flow of this thing.
I just feel I've been talking too much this one. Right, goal of the season. Ryan, you are the judge of the goal of the season competition. 3 goals to choose from, A, B or C.
Is this Clisty?
This is Clisty at Histon.
He caught that well, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Good player, Simon Clist, good player.
Goal B, Jamie Cook against Luton. Good strike. Really good strike, to be fair.
And the turn as well.
Goal C, Matt Green at Wembley. Ryan, you be the judge.
Oh, wow. I think it's probably got to be, I think Greeny, just purely because of the euphoria that it calls for a split second, I think. But yeah, he's technically as well. Cookies, they're all good goals. I think because of the occasion, probably Greeny, I think. So it's gone right in the top corner. It always looks better like that.
Cool. Ryan, how do you reflect on that season then?
Cool. Just, well, it's the best season I'll ever have. I don't think it will be topped. If you wanted to get promoted, going through Wembley is the best way to do it. If you ask anyone how they would want to get promoted, knowing they were going to win, it would be through Wembley. Just the fans, I was shocked at the fans in terms of how awesome they were. You've only got to look at the turnouts away from home as well as the home games and at Wembley. But just a season of, it's hard to put a finger on it really, but just the ultimate season really, getting to Wembley and getting promoted, and it's just something that no one can ever take away from you. And in terms of I know Oxford have been to Wembley a few times since, but I think in terms of magnitude of how much was riding on the game and after the history, I think that was probably the biggest win that they've had at Wembley.
Absolutely agree with my friend over there. That is, I think, the biggest game in our history.
Yeah.
The next 3 times at Wembley have been very disappointing.
Very disappointing.
Yeah. And it was just nice. I'm just proud to have been part of it. You know, it's something that will stay with me for the rest of my life, and you know, I'm always proud of it. I still, get the butterflies if people mention it in that season and the fact that I was playing and stuff. So, and it's something that I always talk to my children about, and they always ask questions. So, even for that in itself is something that, makes it one of the best days in my life, apart from probably my children being born. Well,
and us playing shuffleboard in Boston, that was a good one.
Oh yeah, you can't beat that.
Yeah, that's better than that's not.
That was a great stag do that.
That was brilliant. It was a pre-season tour, not a stag. We're going back, aren't we? It was a reunion. We're going back.
That pre-season tour was a great stag do.
Absolutely brilliant. We could do an entire podcast just based on this, but we got to do the answers to Martin's.
Hard, really, hadn't we? Yeah.
Go on, Martin.
Okay, so the first question was the Mark Crichton one score in the last minute winner against York. But with which former Oxford player does Crichton share his tattoo parlour?
I'll tell you what, Ryan Clarke's he's a genius if he knows the answer to this.
Do you know the answer, Ryan?
Is it Summer Evans?
Oh, that's not a bad guess. Not a bad guess.
Yeah, Jordan Evans. Brilliant, Ryan.
I can't believe it. There you go.
You knew that.
It's barber shop. It's part of Crichton's tattoo parlour. So,
brilliant.
If you want, tats while you get your haircut, or vice versa. That's the way to go. Second question: United won at Histon on that occasion 2-1. 4-3. What was Oxford's overall record like against Histon? Wins, draws, losses.
I reckon that's the only one we beat them in.
I'm saying 2-2-2.
What I know is they were horrible to play against.
Yeah, in fact, it's not bad. We've beaten them 4 times, not drawn with them. They've beaten us twice. So there you go. Better than people thought. An optimistic little question there for you.
I think they've gone bust, haven't they? Or
yeah.
Yeah, they kept getting relegated, didn't they? Went down and down the pyramid. Don't know where they are now. The Chester game. What was the significance to United's history of the Chester result being expunged?
No idea.
James Constable lost the all-time goal scoring record because of
That's
it.
right. If his 3 goals would have counted, he'd be the Oxford United all-time goal scorer now, leading goal scorer.
We said that 4 times. We said that 4 times when you asked the question. You said apart from that.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, you said it was something else.
You said it was something else.
Rewind, Dan. They never mentioned that. Anyway, so the serious question for the Luton game was, how was this game used in an attempt to help England's bid for the 2018 World Cup finals?
So they used... Go on, Chris. Go on.
No, go on. Do you know the answer?
I do, yeah. So the FA used it as an example of how popular football is in the UK because we had such a big crowd for a 5th division match. Is that kind of right?
I think it was.
That's exactly right. It wasn't the FA, it was the CEO of the World Cup bid in his keynote speech to the leaders of football conference. The crowd was over 10,000 in the 5th tier, whereas in a lot of European countries, that would be a 1st division crowd.
Yeah.
Okay, the Hayes and Yedding question. United lost 2-1 away at Hayes and Yedding, but what was the score in the reverse fixture?
2-1.
They lost 2-1.
2-1.
Yeah. Basham got 2, didn't they?
You did,
Never
but we
mind.
got 1. In how many other games this season did Bino, Alfie, and Matt Green all score?
0.
The answer is 1. They all scored when we beat Grays Athletic 4-0 away.
I won that disqualified. I didn't see it. I had a dodgy kebab before I went in the ground. I spent the entire game in the toilet. I never saw a minute of that game. The report was a travesty because I hadn't seen any of the game. That's genuine. I was in the loo at Grays all the way through. That doesn't count. It's expunged.
Carl, remember their ground? Is that the ground where they had the
flats.
flats
That's
right on the
overlooked,
side
yeah.
of the pitch?
And their pre-match playlist consisted entirely of Queen songs, which was a bit depressing. The final question. How many appearances did Ryan Clarke make in the 2009-10 season? And the subsidiary question is, in which 2 other players made the same number of appearances?
Did you play every game, right?
No, Billy played 1 against Wrexham in the, what cup was it? FA Trophy?
Trophy, maybe?
Might have been the FA Trophy. So,
What about the Satanta Shield?
I can't. It must have been about, including the playoff games and the final, 40.
Yeah.
40. Hold on, how many teams are in the league?
There were 44 games in the league.
44, 47. I'd go 51, 52.
Anyone else?
50.
I've gone 55, I guess.
Well, Clarke got it. It's 52.
52. There you go.
Yeah. And which other 2 players made the same number of appearances?
I'm going to go Damien back.
And
I thought Damien got sent off in one of those clips that we were watching, so I disqualified him because he would have been
he
suspended.
did. He got sent off at Hayes and Yedding, didn't he?
Yeah. No, that was Greeny that got
That
sent
was
off.
Greeny
for
got
Hayes,
sent
yeah.
off.
Greeny, yeah.
I thought he got sent off in one of the home games.
Hamworth,
I think Skip
maybe.
played them all. I think Jake played all of them.
No, Jake came late. Jake
Okay.
came after the season started, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
I'm going to go
No.
I'm going to go Clisty.
Danny Bullman and Simon Clist.
So it wasn't Damien back then.
Nah. So, do you want to know how many games he played? I'll tell you if you want.
Is this coming from your memory? We got to wait and fill in for 10 minutes.
No. But he
all right,
played
Martin,
a total of 45 games.
Okay.
Oh, who won the Quizmaster?
One of you guys, maybe. There's probably someone else, actually, someone watching on the podcast or listening on the podcast.
As a Quizmaster, you surely got to keep the scores and present some sort of trophy. Ryan's just won a place on his own soccer course.
Yes. Well done,
There you
Ryan.
go.
See if you can learn something.
Right, so to draw this nonsense to an end then, I want to thank Dan for putting that together. I want to thank Martin for being the bearer of all the jokes throughout the last hour and a half, mainly at his expense. Sorry, Martin.
So I'm going to go and shave now.
But most of all, I want to thank Ryan Clarke because you are the toppest of top men. Thank you for
Yeah,
doing it.
indeed.
See you back here in 10 years and we'll do the anniversary of that again. We'll be back with another podcast. As we always say, if there are people out there who've got video clips, VHS you're converting, anything, let us know. We'll put it all into this sort of format. We'll find a guest and we'll see you soon.
Brilliant.
Ryan, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I
brilliant.
don't thank you for today. I want to thank you for being part of that team that saved our club, because if you guys hadn't got promoted that day,
Yeah.
God knows what would have happened, right? God only knows. So honestly, just thanks from all the fans. And
No worries. Thanks. No, there was a lot more riding on it than I think we realised, I think.
Yeah, there was.